Okay, we are recording. Sorry, I might have started it before I. Okay, hello and welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have Daniele Della Valle with us. She is, let me just pull up the bio. She's got a big, long bio. She is a certified nutritional therapy practitioner, author, and motivational speaker. Having worked in the food, beverage, retail, and service industries for the past 18 years, Danielle has had an invaluable experience that greatly contributes to her now profession as an NTP and body positive coach. After Danielle transitioned into nutrition, she dove headfirst, worked in a keto clinic as the principal nutritionist, opened a private practice, wrote a book, started a podcast, and now is about to embark on the conference circuit as a motivational speaker. Her love to heal and be of service to others is clear when you meet her. Her heart knows no bounds. Danielle's hope is that she can work hard to help every woman feel validated and supported through every aspect of their life, which is amazing. Hello, Danielle. Welcome.
Hi, Karen. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for coming. This is very exciting. I was just talking to you about the fact that so much of what you talk about, I talk about as well. And I think that there's not enough of us women talking about it. So to hear it from other people is always very encouraging. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, Danielle, and how you came to be where you are.
Yeah, so I live in the Pacific Northwest, and that wasn't always the case. I grew up in Southern California, and the body image is very different down there. You know, a lot of my friends had started getting plastic surgery right out of high school. I had grown up with women that had had multiple procedures, and so it was kind of common to body shame each other, and so it was a really different kind of mentality to grow up in. And then when I moved up here, it was a completely different shift. You know, there was a lot of body positivity in the area. People are familiar with Portland. You know, it's very progressive. And after nutrition school, my first job was in a keto clinic. And keto is still very much about weight loss and, you know, not as much about wellness, even though people like yourself and Leanne are trying to be the women that are like changing that narrative and methodology, but, you know, still on kind of like a corporate clinic scale, it's still very much about weight loss. And there's a lot of shaming language that goes into that. The weight loss industry is very much about like the bottom line, the bottom dollar. And so they use a lot of like neurolingual techniques of processing, trying to use kind of like brainwashing techniques to shame people, you know, and so just a really toxic environment. And so when I went into private practice, I really, really, really wanted to focus on changing conversations around our body, how we talk to our body, how we appreciate it, and everything that it does for us and what we can do for it. And I started to see so many amazing changes, not only just in how women saw their body, but also how they approached health and wellness, and then how they started to approach the rest of their life. So it kind of just bled all over, you know, into this very much like a symbiotic whole health, you know, kind of perspective. And so naturally, you know, the best way we can reach a mass populace is going to be through education. And so I felt that writing a book, you know, was just the most important next step, because then I was able to kind of embody my experience and the things that I've learned and try to be able to communicate with that. You know, there's so many amazing women out there like yourself and like Leanne and so many other authors that are trying to portray this message. And I'm really happy that there's such a social change right now going on, that people are actually, you know, starting to change these conversations. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just trying to spread the message of happy weight and just talk more about, you know, that whole health wellness.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like it's a lost cause, and I know I shouldn't, but it's not positive of me. But I do sometimes feel like, oh God, are we so far gone in society as far as what's being portrayed and coming at us at all times from the media? Like, is there any, you know, hope for women and for the generations that are coming? And how do we change this on a bigger scale, right? So that is when you wrote Happy Weight. Well, first actually tell us a little bit about the book And so the people understand what happy weight is. This is such a great name. I posted the cover of all the women on our Facebook page, so people have seen the happy weight book cover.
Yay, thank you for doing
Beautiful.
that. The cover, those women are my friends, and that was a fun idea. Yeah, we took that picture in my backyard, and it was a really fun day. I just, when women take their clothes off, it's like nothing matters. It's this beautiful experience. I don't know. I love communal nudity. I talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I happy weight. The title's Happy Weight: Unlocking Body Confidence Through Bioindividual Nutrition and Mindfulness. So as an ancestral health practitioner, I am very much about the body as an individual. I'm not about the herd mentality where nutrition is concerned, because there are going to be different methodologies, which I totally respect. I highly respect every woman that is creating in the wellness industry, which is mostly women, but the women that are creating these amazing protocols. But then there's a bio-individual perspective that goes into that too. People have different genetic mutations, different backgrounds, different digestive function, that type of stuff. So I really wanted to incorporate my ancestral health nutrition background, as well as my experience with being a woman and being body shamed and working with clients, and kind of wanted to create, it's definitely a self-help book. You can't say it's not, it's definitely one of those things that talks about vulnerability and conversations, boundaries. There's a nutrition chapter in there that leaves it very open. I talk about a lot of my favorite practitioners and stuff, and it's really honestly different for every woman. I've had people say that they laugh, they cry, it's changed their life, all these different things. But I'm just really happy that I've been able to kind of impact this forward change. So.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, when they would just first read it, they think, or just the name of it, Happy Weight, I think automatically they would think, well, my happy weight is a number, right? My happy weight is 120, whatever it is. And I'm stuck on that number, and that's when I'm going to be happy. So that's not what it's about, is it?
No, it is actually an anti-scale, anti-diet, anti-measurement book. And happy weight is actually just a feeling. It has nothing to do with your actual number, because that's what society tells us, is that our worth is actually in a number. And it's super depressing. That is just like, yeah, it should never be that way for any woman. Your worth should be how you feel when you wake up in the morning. And so, yeah, so it's so funny, because people will read it, just the cover, and they're like, oh, happy weight, I don't need that. And I was like, well, I wouldn't be too sure, definitely pick it up. And then people that feel like they didn't need it, they read it and they're like, oh, I needed that. I definitely needed that. So it's a message for every woman, for sure.
Yes, I related to it because I remember the exact moment when I finally stopped the struggle of losing weight, like stopped going over it in my head all the time and stopped obsessing about it. And I did have the number in my head. Like, it was like I wanted to get down to, I think it was 125 pounds, and this was the number I wanted, and I had been obsessing about it for years. And then one day it dawned on me, and I think I was like 130, 128 pounds. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm actually super happy right here. I don't mind how my body looks in clothes. I'm not willing to do anything more to lose weight, right? I didn't want to suffer. I didn't want to starve myself. I didn't want to work out harder. I really just was. And I realized that was my happy weight. And I've pretty much maintained that for probably 10 years. It was just like, that's it. I'm happy. And it wasn't the number on the scale. It was this, I can do this.
Exactly. It's about sustainability. And then it's also about it just being about your journey, and not what other people are trying to dictate for you, and not other people saying you need to be this size, you need to eat this way, you need to exercise this way. It's about honestly getting to that place that makes you feel fulfilled every day, that you don't feel overworked, overstressed, you don't start to resent your food or have food anxiety or food restriction issues. It's just about really trying to find out what works for you. And in all of this, it's a little bit of a difficult way to talk about things, because it's either body positivity completely on one end, or it's weight loss and nutrition on the other end. And I'm bridging the two conversations. So it's a little bit more complicated for people, because there's only a few people out there that are trying to bring this message. And so there's not really a group movement for it yet. So it's people are finding, they're like, wait a second, I'm looking at body positive stuff, but then I'm trying to do nutrition stuff. And it's just it's a little bit of a whirlwind. So I'm not saying that I started the conversation, but I'm definitely trying to help to kind of bring it home,
Yeah, absolutely. So, me too. And I do feel like there's not enough of us.
No, there aren't. There's very few. Yes.
But it really does. They have to go together. And I think that was the whole purpose of even my nutrition practice. Was I wanted women to realize that it didn't have to be the struggle. Like when people listening to you right now, there's probably so many women going, is that even possible? Is that possible that I can have both, that I can have the body positive image and not obsess about my food and not, and still be at a happy weight without being obsessed about it and unhappy? And it is possible. We're proof.
It's absolutely possible. Yeah, absolutely possible. You can wake up and not have that angry gremlin in your head just telling you that, you're worthless and, it's all about your body. But it's honestly, it's totally about how you feel when you wake up in the morning. What is your mental health, where it's at, all of those different things. And like you said, you can have a light exercise and eat the foods you want to eat. It's just about really trying to find that holistic style of living.
Yeah, the balance, right?
Exactly.
And how often would you say, like just with all the women you've worked with and talked to, what kind of percentage would you say are women way off on their marker as far as what their happy weight should be? Like, I was listening to your talk with Leanne, and you guys were both saying that you realized your happy weight was not, like, just like me, you realized it wasn't what you thought it was going to be. It was heavier. It was like 10 pounds heavier than what you actually thought. How often are women just way off the mark, where they have this bad idea of what their body should look like?
They're way off every time. Oh, it's 100%. It's 100%. Women they want this number that is super unrealistic. And for me to keep up the number that I thought was my happy weight, I literally had to starve myself and over-exercise. Yeah. And it's just, clearly that is going to lead to some issues down the line. And so I'm the healthiest I've ever been, and I'm 20 pounds heavier. That's super hard for other people to accept, especially the people close to me, the people that I grew up with that, think in their minds that I'm supposed to look a certain way, but I feel good. And I'm healthy. I don't have the stuff I had before, so it's just a better place to be.
Do you ever talk much about the male side of it, like how men are perceiving women? Because I have a lot of women that come in, and one of the biggest reasons they don't like themselves is because the man's expectation of what women should look like, just like how we have that expectation, they have it as well. And that's something I think that it would be really hard. It would be a very hard challenge. Do you have any suggestions as far as like how to change the man's view of what a woman should look like?
Partner shaming is tough. And it happens a lot, more. And I mean, it does. I've actually seen a lot of women end up divorcing, or leaving their partners, while they're in kind of their wellness transition, because they realized there was a lot of toxic, negativity. Because I talk a lot about toxic relationships and conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And I definitely do. That's really important. And so the thing is if you love your partner and you want to stay with your partner, it's important for them to understand that your feelings are valid. And that's always really hard, because a lot of people are very one-sided, very linear, when they're having conversations. There's a lot of diplomacy that is lacking there. And, and so it's usually they just see something and then they want to react because they think they're helping with that comment. They don't think that they're actually causing any harm. because they're saying, oh, well, when we first got together, you looked like this. Why do you look like this now? Instead of being, having a more constructive conversation. You should never talk about your partner's body ever. No. That is not something that is conducive. It is not beneficial. It is not going to help anyone. Instead, having more constructive conversations about other things, like, how are you feeling these days? Do you like your job? Are you okay with your friends? Really, and getting to the point where if that person is actually happy and their body looks different, then it's the partner that needs to get on board, and they need to realize, like, hey, this is what I look like now. And if you don't love me for me and I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, then maybe we need to readjust and, find a solution. So I really hope to empower women to have these difficult conversations with their partner and say, hey, I didn't appreciate what you just said to me, and what you said to me was wrong. Because the thing is that with the power dynamic, especially in like heteronormative relationships that are monogamous, there is going to have a tendency for it to tip on the scale of the male to be a little bit more forward with hurtful conversations, because they're privileged. They're very spoiled. They don't have people throwing stuff back in their face all the time. It's typically women that feel like they can't speak their truth or be vulnerable because they're worried that it will cause conflict in their relationship. We're nurturers. And so it's about kind of taking the bull by the horns and saying, no, I'm going to stand my ground and stand in my truth, and I'm going to be empowered. And I'm going to say, no, you can't treat me that way. So it's about conversations, really.
It really is. Yeah. No, I like that. I agree completely. I remember a long time ago, I did this like crazy detox. It was some, probably stupid thing to do at the time. And I lost quick weight. I think I lost like 7-8 pounds, and it was noticeable. And I remember my husband said, oh, you look great. And I said, don't tell me that. And he was like, oh, and he's like the nicest man in the whole world, right? And so for him, he was like, oh, well, I think you always look beautiful. And he kind of backpedaled. And I was like, but don't tell me when I'm thinner that I look good. And he's like, okay. And he got it. Like, he totally got it. Because I was offended. And then I thought, no, wait. If he lost a bunch of weight, I'd probably tell him he'd look good too. So I had to try and reverse the situation. I said, it's not that I don't look good now. And I think that that's what we have to realize, right? Is that, you do have to appreciate where you're at. And so does your partner. Period.
It's also programming too, right? Changing conversations you've had forever and relationship dynamics can be very hard, because we're programmed to say these things, to have these interactions with people. And so it's about changing your language, and that even with someone like, your honey, who is like the most understanding person, it's about kind of retraining that language a little bit and telling people, oh my gosh, you look super happy. What did you do? What have you changed? Just like, because the thing is, like, when you do a detox, there's a lot of health awesomeness that can come from detoxes. And so maybe you're feeling like he felt your energy, I'm sure your energy increased. You probably like mentally were feeling really good. And so it's about telling people like, hey, you look really happy. What's going on? And then being like, okay, and not associating it with any sort of body change. Yes. And that's really hard. It is very, very hard. I mean, I've had comments, it looks like you're keeping your weight down. Really proud of you for doing that. Or, there's just always people really try and throw body shaming into every conversation. And it's really interesting how much people equate their worth, their comfortability, and their connection to you with image. It's really fascinating. But that's why the weight loss and the beauty industry are billion-dollar industries, because that is what we live in every single day.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So when it comes to like a woman that maybe needs to lose 10 pounds can probably easily wrap her head, not easily, but she could wrap her head around thinking differently about what her happy weight is. When it comes to somebody that needs to lose quite a bit of weight, let's say 100 pounds, how can they develop the same attitude and kind of positive self-image that you're talking about, even though they've only have just started their journey, let's say? Is there a way that we can still adopt that, even though we're not maybe at our happy weight?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is that even in body positive nutrition, you can still want to change something about your body, and it doesn't, and I don't mean the size or the image. I just mean if you're working on your health and you're health focused, there are things that might transition. If a person ate a conventional processed food diet for a really long time and it really impacted their health and a side effect was, excessive weight gain, then it's possible if they were on a nutrition protocol that they would lose weight. But it's about not focusing on the weight loss itself and just completely loving your body through the entire transition and focusing on more tangible goals as your health markers and as those things that are going to give you that fulfillment and that happiness. Because people use the scale every single day to kind of tell them that they're on track or that they're doing good, but that number doesn't actually mean anything. And that's where we get hung up. That's where we create that negative, feedback loop with our conversations in our head, because sometimes if we have inflammation or retaining water for whatever reason, the number might go up, but we may have lost body fat. And so it's just those numbers are inconclusive, they're irrelevant, they don't help us at all, emotionally when we're trying to do a health protocol. So focusing on things that are completely tangible, like, are you sleeping through the night? Did you have energy this entire day without a cup of coffee or a second cup of coffee? Was your meal timing awesome and your digestion corrected? Have you gone off several of your medications? How is your edema doing? How is your acid reflux doing? How are your migraines? Actual tangible health goals are what people should be focusing on. And if they say, oh, I need to lose 10 pounds, or, oh, my doctor said that, because there's a lot of like physician shaming that goes in the health industry, because they have no nutrition background. They have absolutely no nutrition background. So then you have this like
exercise. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to exercise more. That's it.
And then what does that even mean? So there's this traumatic experience with no resolution and no help. And so that's the thing, is just like really trying to find like these health and wellness goals and seeking out a holistic practitioner, finding a naturopathic physician or an ancestral health nutritionist that you can work with that actually understands like how the body works and how bioindividuality works. And so just like stay off the scale, don't measure yourself. If you lose weight, you lose weight, but that is not what we should be trying to achieve in terms of like our overall happiness.
Yeah. And how does talking about the negative self-talk, I think we all have it. I know I'm still terrible for it, where I have to catch myself many times where I'm looking at my stomach flap or whatever it is going, oh God, I wish that was different. Or, how does somebody break that? Because it's an addiction almost to a thought pattern, right? Like you see yourself in the mirror, you instantly go down that narrow pathway of this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. If somebody's just starting out on this journey of finding their happy weight and body positive image, is there a tool that you suggest that we can use to break that pattern?
Absolutely. So it's essentially, there are these tiny little, there's tiny little glands that live in the base of our brain. It's called our amygdala. And that's where a lot of our fight or flight resides. It's where a lot of our trauma lives. And only way to kind of reset trauma or reset our fight or flight is to be able, and that's kind of like where anxiety lives. There's always a lot of body anxiety, food anxiety, and these things are consistent. They're a consistent loop. And we have to retrain through consistent positive programming. And you can start really easily by unfollowing anyone on social media that makes you feel bad about yourself. Anyone. You don't have to unfriend your friends on Facebook, but you can unfollow their feeds. Like, just get rid of anything in your house, around your house, on your phone, in your space, wherever, that is going to make you feel negative about yourself. If it's food related, that's another conversation that needs to be addressed as well. If you're saying, I can't have this, I shouldn't have this, then we're getting into food restriction and we're getting into some, disordered eating and that type of stuff. And so, trying to just choose really positive conversations where yourself is concerned. So that's kind of like the first easy step for people, is just to remove any sort of like negative output. But the thing is you're going to be left with yourself and your demons and, your trauma and past and that type of stuff. And it's really about being 100% vulnerable and authentic and living in your truth and saying, hey, what makes me feel this way? Why am I saying this to myself? And how can I address this and move forward? And just do consistent work. They are very simple, easy daily practices you could do. And you'll start to notice a transition. You'll start to see yourself differently. You'll start to respond to conversations differently. You'll start to see a change in yourself because you will get comfortable with the fact that you are whole and complete and amazing and loved. You just have to accept that and then know that you're worthy of those things and continue to talk to yourself in that way.
Right.
So,
yeah. Which is, I think, far more difficult than it sounds. But you're right though, because it is really hard to be kind to yourself. As horrible as that sounds, it's very challenging for women to be kind to themselves and they don't even want to say it to other women. Like I have so many women that feel bad that they've maybe lost the weight and they feel good in their body. They don't even want to share that joy with friends because they feel bad about it. And they would rather put themselves down than lift themselves up. It's very odd.
Oh yeah. Women love to say, oh no, I'm just fine. They never want to talk about their accomplishments. They never want to talk about the things that they've done for themselves because they think that somehow that is too forward, or maybe we are talking too much about ourselves. And so people think maybe it's a selfishness, but it's not. If women were standing in the ground of their accomplishments and were totally on board with the confidence that they're gaining through these transitions, it would catch on. It's infectious. And then this kind of everyone would start to feel like, oh, I can share the things that I've done that are awesome in my life. And, and then you start to feel this like overall positivity taking over with you and your friends. So we can't down talk the things that we do. We have to lift each other up. We have to lift ourselves up. And we have to live in a state of positivity. And if there is someone that is being perpetually negative in your life, addressing that. And if that doesn't work, then sometimes we have to find new friends. Yeah. And that's another scary part of the happy weight transition too, is sometimes we need to set really hardcore boundaries. And sometimes people don't like that, but it's necessary, in order for us to create a safe space for ourselves.
Yeah, I did have to do that once where I actually took a friend off my social media. So unfollow, just so I couldn't see her stuff, because every day it was pictures of her in her bikini and underwear and working out and like pretty much naked pictures all day long. And she's got this gorgeous body, and it was like, I can't even see this anymore. This is ridiculous. I just feel horrible about myself. And I took her off my Facebook. And that was hard to do because she was a friend. But you got to do what you got to do.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that we all have different bodies and we all have different lives. And we're not going to look the same. We're not going to do the same things. And so if something's triggering for you, you got to get away from it. And we have to understand that that's not our life. That's not our body. That's hers. And it's her choice to also post those things.
Yes.
But then it is also your choice to unfollow them too. So, no one's in the wrong on either side. And it's just about making yourself comfortable so that you don't have to, live in that negative space. And I mean, you are beautiful, so for you to sit there and think, to judge yourself, that's a tough place to be,
Yeah.
And so it's also about, if you're not going to tell your friends something negative about themselves, then why do you tell yourself something negative about yourself? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's
also that too.
Yeah.
Yes. We are pretty terrible. Yeah.
So for people that don't know, what's the body positive movement? Is there actual group, or like, is there page, like Facebook pages that somebody could follow to have that positive impact on their body?
There's body positive people all over the internet right now, which is really wonderful. The Health at Every Size book was released is quite a long time ago, actually. And so they're doing really great things with disordered eating and trying to help people to love their bodies through food and that type of stuff. And so you could really, put in a hashtag body positivity and so much stuff is going to come up. But this is where the lines are a little bit blurred with nutrition, is that there's body positivity and then there's body positive nutrition. And a lot of people in the body positive community, which is rightfully so, because they have a lot of trauma and eating disorder recovery and that type of stuff, they don't want to talk about the food portion because they have issues with food, right? And so with body positive nutrition, it's because I'm an ancestral health nutritionist, I want to encourage people to still take care of their body. And, but then that can happen at every size. But in the very strict body positive movement, it's about let's eat whatever we want, whenever we want. And that still forwards kind of like the processed food industry and all the stuff that's causing a lot of chronic illness and disease and the things that people like you and I are trying to help people get away from. So it's you can follow as many body positive people you want. They're great for encouragement. They make you feel awesome. But then I also want to encourage people to still think about how they are treating their body as well.
Yes.
Because if we go back to the mentality of eating the foods that make us ill, we're going to eventually start to have health problems. We're going to have mental health issues and things are going to increase. So it's about trying to find that balance in between the two. But there's plenty of people like yourself and, other people that are trying to kind of keep that body positive nutrition movement moving forward. So it's, like I said, still fairly new. So it's kind of, you have to dig for people out there that are doing it. But hopefully it'll be more mainstream in the next 5 to 10 years.
And I think it's just a lot easier to be body positive when you feel good.
True.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like when you're eating the right food and you're, like you said, you've got the energy, your skin's clear, your digestive system's working amazing, you're sleeping great, then it's a lot easier to think positive thoughts, period.
Yeah, exactly.
Sick and tired and depressed, right? And then this way to go down that road of negative self-talk when you're not feeling very well.
It's very easy to get depressed when you don't eat foods that are fueling your body. So I still think that it's really important to make sure that we're fueling ourselves and putting those healthy foods in our body, because our body is our temple. Yeah. And you don't have to be eating clean 100% of the time. No. And it's also about not being food shamed, not restricting your eating, not disordered eating, but it is also, let's have tangible wellness goals of things that are going to continue to move us forward. Because if we're not whole, we can't be there for other people. We can't be compassionate to other people. We can't hold space for other people. We can't be or do the work that we need to do in this life if we're not going to be healthy.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I always think, I have a 10-year-old daughter. And so I can always say to myself, what am I trying to teach her? Where do I want the next generation of women to go? Right. And it is body positive nutrition. That's what we want them to know. We want them to not have the struggle with food like we had, and to have that horrible self-image and body shaming and whatever else. And so I think that that's a good starting point too, for some people, when it's like, well, what do you want to teach your children? Where do you want them to go with their diets? Do you want them to stay on the yo-yo diet for the rest of their life? No.
No.
So then you lead by example.
Exactly. You want to impart that wisdom for them to love themselves no matter what.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So where can people find you? Tell us where you are.
Honestly, the easiest way to find me is on Instagram. I'm the most active on Instagram, and that's just Daniele Della Valle, NTP. And I always have my little link tree set up so you can see all the things I'm doing. And I will be speaking at a few conferences next year. So if anyone's interested in the Nutritional Therapy Association conference in March, I'll be a keynote there. And then I'll also be a speaker on the low carb cruise, which I'm really excited with Jimmy Moore. That's going to be super fun.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
Bringing body positivity to the keto community. So I'm super stoked about that. So
I would love to do that. Oh, that's great.
You should come.
I know I should, totally. And your book you can get off of Amazon, you can get it on your site, right?
Yeah, on Amazon, super easy. Just type in Happy Weight Book in the search bar and it'll come up. And yeah, it's just $14.95. It's also available on Kindle. I don't have an audiobook yet. I have not gotten myself to get into a room for like 8 hours to record it yet, but I'm working on it. So.
Yeah. Just hire someone to be the voice of it then. It's not as personal.
Yeah, true.
You could get somebody with a really nice, one of those people. Okay, well that's perfect. I will link to your Instagram and do you have a Facebook page?
I just have my personal Facebook. I'm not super active on Facebook yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Just Instagram mostly right now. It's just the easiest for me to
link
handle.
To your site and to Instagram, and I will highly suggest for people to read the book. It sounds amazing, and you're sending me a copy, so I get to read it now. I only just found Danielle. Would have read it prior because I always try and read my stuff before I interview somebody, but it was very quick, the setup for this meeting. So thank you very much for coming on the show today, and we will probably have you back.
Thank you, Karen.
That was awesome.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you so much.
You.